We're live, Jane, and you're on the floor.
Just adjusting the foot. Sorry, good morning.
I'm just going to check we've gone live on Facebook because last week there was all sorts of shenanigans occurring and we didn't go live on Facebook automatically.
Oh.
And that there SJ's on those there holidays. Oh, it looks like we are.
That's good. It's all down to you today.
Gems,
you are everything.
I'm doing it all, aren't I? We've got the tech, we've got the presenting, we've got everything. All
producing,
the
presenting, sound check.
Yeah, all that. All that. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Hopefully you can see and hear us because, yes, this morning I am all things, although thankfully I'm not demonstrating because we've got the wonderful Jane Alcock here with us.
Morning.
Hello, Jane.
Good morning.
Had a lovely weekend.
Lovely, thank you.
And you've done this already.
Yes.
You're flying.
We're trying to be organised, aren't we?
And you've got next week's made and all sorts going on, I tell you.
Front if it's made, it's not finished, but yes. Yeah.
It's good, eh?
It is nice to be organised.
It is. We like being organised. It makes us feel much better about things on a Monday morning. Oh, I'm looking now. Let's see if we can find any posts. Do we have comments? Can you hear us? That is the question.
That's the big thing.
It's jumped into the screen that will tell me, so that's good. And it says we're live on YouTube as well, so fingers crossed.
Yes.
But today's make, that came about because I asked for something, didn't I, Jane?
Yes.
I said, and this applied with last week's make as well, that I've quite often got a fabric that I've got a decent quantity of, but I want to be able to showcase.
Yes, you don't want to cut it up too small so you can see it nicely.
And last week's make, I said, Jane, I've got a metre of some of my fabrics and I want to be able to do a piece that's a decent size that you can see it and then have a nice big border, you said. And I said, yes, Jane, that as well. This one, however, I said, what if I've got half a metre of a nice fabric and I want to showcase it and I don't want to chop it too small? It would be nice to have almost a star type affair going on with a good old space in the middle. And you went, I've got just the idea. Which was grand.
It's lovely, and it's a beautiful fabric, Lewis and Irene, with the mermaids and the whales. It's lovely.
It is lovely. It's a new one, actually. It's from a collection that's just, fairly recent for Lewis and Irene, and we like that one. Just that one.
Just that one.
So we bought just that one. So we do have it as part of our quilt kits today, and we do have some cut to order, but of course, that's it. Once it's gone, it's gone. Yeah,
I think Natasha originally thought it was going to half me to heaven, and I spied it and said, oh, that's mine, please.
We pinched it, we did. Oh, let's have a look, shall we? We've got people saying good morning. We've got Rona with us, says good morning, lovely ladies, and Jimmy.
Good morning, Jimmy.
Good morning.
Evening, Jimmy.
Yes, and morning to Rona. And Sharon. And Auntie Lizzie says good morning, sewing family. Morning. Your mother says, I'm here.
Hi, Mum.
Yeah, present and correct.
Good.
That's what it is. We also have Leslie Freeman. She says, thank you for your help/email.
You're very welcome.
You can email
always
Jane,
help when I want to, when I can.
You can always email Jane and get some help. Evelyn, and who else have we got? Jane. We've got all sorts of people here. So that's good.
That's good to know.
That's over on Facebook. So we can be seen and heard. Marvellous.
That's what we like.
Should we have a look at that new fabric, Jane?
Yes,
shall we?
let's do that because it's rather lovely.
It really is. It's beautiful. So if I switcheroo and go into the...
It's lovely because it's sort of soft muted tones, I think.
Really lovely.
So it's a subtle combination of sort of a lovely grey turquoisey colour and soft
Jen, you've seen me
blues.
press this button. There we go.
There we are.
Come on now, I said. It showed up on
I
my
love
screen
it that
here, but not on the big screen.
The mermaids are like feeding or tickling the whale's chin. It's lovely.
So nice.
And there's turtles in there as well, and jellyfish and shells and seahorses.
We need to give credit for this one, actually. So it's from a collection called Sound of the Sea. The designer's Cassandra Connolly. And she is a British surface pattern designer living in picturesque Herefordshire.
Lovely.
She says she loves to design elegant patterns in sophisticated colour palettes inspired by vintage books and their narratives, her adventures, moments in time, and the poetic magic of nostalgia. She says other things about this fabric as well, which is on the page there for you to have a look at. But it's all, she likes to give a little magical feel to things. And yes, that idea there, look, that the mermaids are there, like you say, stroking the faces of the whales. It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous, and I love the colour palette in this. It's a lovely, subtle, soft colour palette, which isn't necessarily childlike. You know, it would look quite nice in a grown-up quilt as well. Because I think sometimes we think mermaids are a bit sort of for children, but not necessarily, because I like a mermaid.
Me too. Me too. I'd like to be a mermaid, actually,
well, yes.
told. If I could be anything a bit magical.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be a unicorn, I'd be a mermaid.
Yeah, I think I would too, because I do like being in the sea.
Well, I'm not massively fond, Jane, yet somehow I think probably Splash from the 1980s
Yes,
has set me
one
off
of my favourite films. Yeah.
I loved that film.
Yes.
Who else loved that film?
It's gorgeous.
Oh, it was lovely, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And anyone who's not seen it, I can't even say what happens in the end, but it's just like, oh,
it's magical.
It's gorgeous.
It's like a modern day story of the story of the Little Mermaid, isn't it? Really?
Is. Yeah, it is. It's lovely. But we digress, Jane, as usual.
Yes,
and it's not
we're very good at that.
No, it's not even 10 yet. We're digressing. We'll start talking about food soon, and then that'll be that.
Yeah, that'll be the show completely.
But today's quilt, you've made the sample using that fabric, Jane.
Yes.
You've also then put it into the quilt kit so that you can make the same one at home.
Yeah.
We've gone with 2 other colourways, which we'll show everyone in a moment.
Yes, we've made some beautiful samples up with that.
Absolutely. And what remains of that fabric, we have got by the ½ metre for everybody, which Natasha doesn't know about because she had intended to do things with it. I've stolen it. Genevieve's with us over on YouTube, says, "Good morning, ladies. Lovely quilt, Jane."
Thank you.
It is, though. You're right.
Yes, it is lovely.
It is. What I've done today for everybody as well is I have put some discounts here and there to have a little peep. There's an introductory price on the quilt kits, there's some discount on some bumbleberries. These are sort of a last chance to buy situation now, because as you can see, we've got very little left of the Dino Glow and the Puffin Bay. There's quite small amounts on some of these bolts now, isn't there?
Yeah.
So if you are looking to buy one of the colourways, you want to back your quilt perhaps with matching fabric or make cushions or other things to go with.
Yeah.
Grab it now.
Yes, and if you were making a quilt this size, it's 41 by 41-ish. So you would need probably 2.5 metres for your backing.
Yeah.
You'd have to join it of your standard width, 1.5 metres of your extra wide.
Yes.
So, if you were thinking, oh, I'm going to do the Dino one and I'm going to get some fabric for the back, you'll need to order 5 units, 2.5 metres,
Or get yourself 3 metres, be absolutely safe and have a bit for your stash.
Yes, make a cushion to match.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
And we have more comments as well. Becky says, "Morning, lovely ladies. I made a teapot and cups as a table runner for my mum using my Tilda. Yikes, she loved it. Thank you."
Oh, lovely. That's a nice idea, yeah.
That was the Time for Tea project that you did,
yes,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Really gorgeous. All of those kits have gone now. They flew out at a rate of knots.
It was a nice one and a beautiful Tilda fabric. It just lent itself perfectly for that one. Yeah.
It was lovely as well. Oh, and Jimmy says that he's making a doll outfit at present as well as quilting.
Oh.
All of this is going on.
Nice.
Marvellous. And good morning to everybody else who's saying good morning. There's just so many of you to be able to say hello to today.
Oh, it's lovely to know everybody's here.
It really is. Auntie Lizzie says to your mum that you must be so very proud of your little girl. I'm sure she is, absolutely. Jane, let's have a look at today's kits because they are beautiful and we have got sample blocks of everything.
Yes, because you've been having a little go again, haven't you?
I have actually. I've test run this
Super proud I am of you.
It's like a mother hen.
It's so nice.
I feel like the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
It's lovely, look. This is the Puffin Bay one Gemma's made.
Should we go close up so everyone can see the fabrics in that? Because it's lovely, isn't it, that one?
I love the colour combination in this.
Come on, close up. There it is.
There we go. Look, there he is, little puffins.
Which, considering I'd not done this technique before, I don't think it looks too shabby.
I think it's fabulous. In fact, I think it's neater than mine, but we won't go into that.
Only because you taught me, Jane.
It's lovely, isn't it? That's gorgeous
colourway, that one. And I love these fabrics. They are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
So if we go overhead, you can show everyone the quilts, kits.
Yeah.
We'll have a proper look.
So we've got the one that's behind us, which is the mermaid's fabric. So we've got a little bit of our latte. Is there a metre? Is it a metre of that, or is it a bit more? Metre.
A metre.
Yeah. And then the bumbleberries, which makes the star shape. 60 centimetres, 24 inches of that one.
Oh, sorry, Jane, very quickly. Auntie Lizzie needs a block or two, please. Auntie Lizzie, I did ask the team to pop those in the post at the end of last week, so they should be with you imminently.
Yes, it should be there. Your binding fabric,
Beautiful.
40 centimetres of that, which is a nice slate.
Gorgeous.
Then we have 1/2 metre of the sea holly. Now this is from a different collection to the mermaids, but we felt it just went beautifully with the mermaid fabric. And you have 1/2 metre of that one.
And that's
the beautiful mermaid
one.
one.
Yeah, the colour palette tends to follow, and you can mix and match.
Yeah,
and it just shows it perfectly this time.
And we've got the Puffin Bay, which is half your white metre of that.
White, yeah.
You've got your binding fabric there, and we chose duck egg, didn't we? Because we felt that went really nice.
Lovely.
Bumbleberries for the star.
Yeah, that golden green. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Really zingy.
And the wave fabric for the background accent, and then the Puffin Bay. Beautiful puffins.
Upside down puffins.
It's upside down.
There they are.
There they are.
Hey, puffins.
Lovely puffins
I love
for the
this
centre
fabric.
block. It's
like
gorgeous.
There's one little fish in his mouth and everything, Jane.
The detail, it's classic Lewis and Irene. There's just the little details that make all the difference on their fabrics.
But that
the
choice
designs
of
are
that
beautiful.
bumbleberry was fabulous, Jane, because it picks out the foliage just so nicely.
This bumbleberry here, look, just accents that bit of foliage there, just enough just to make it pop, which is lovely.
It's a great choice.
And then we've got some of the dino, and this is cloud background, which is a lovely soft blue. And we've gone zingy emerald for the binding.
Beautiful.
We've got a bumbleberries there.
Milk chocolate.
Milk chocolate is gorgeous.
It's not allowed during Lent, is it, Jane?
No. And then I don't know what this one is. It's like spots, but it's not spots.
It's the Dino blender, that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's lovely, actually.
Now all the white on this is glow in the dark.
Exactly.
Which I got very excited about when I put it in the show cupboard, because I put it in the show cupboard and it all lit up, which was exciting.
Because you are fundamentally still a child.
Yes, we all are. And then you've got your dino print, which has got volcanoes, dinosaurs, lovely foliage. So you can see why I went with the emerald to pick up the greens. The milk chocolate bumbleberries picks up the sort of orangey and the browns on there, and then this lovely blender matches the blues because it's from the same collection, so it's the same dye lot, but it just gives it a lovely effect. And I've got one of the blocks already made, so you can see how that comes together in that quilt.
We've been cracking on, Jane, haven't we?
Yeah. So you've got Gemma's puffins, so you can see how that works with the puffins, and then obviously the mermaids is the full quilt behind us. But we like to we thought it would be nice for you to see the block made, and it gives you a better idea then how the quilt would go together, which I think is a lovely idea.
That's right. And it's a 9-block quilt, so we've put the pictures of the block on the product page so that you can see the one
each block
made up.
So you get an idea of what the kits look like as well.
It's a 9-block quilt with this lovely sashing with little cornerstones, and and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's really lovely.
It's a good fun quilt pattern, and it's probably one that you might revisit several times, because as we've said, you've got a 1/2 metre of beautiful fabric and you don't really want to cut it into tiny pieces, but you want to showcase it. This is a nice pattern because that's a 6-inch finished piece. So,
and for me, I've always wanted to be able to have a block like this where you can make it into a cushion.
Yes.
Because this one block, it would just be a gorgeous cushion, wouldn't it?
It would.
Perfect for that.
Because you could add the sashing strip around it as well, just to make it a little bigger or wider. I mean, if you were just going to make one block, you'd have enough left of your fabrics to make a wide sashing and a backing probably. If you just wanted to have a go at the one block.
Yeah.
So there's a nice,
really lovely,
a nice opportunity really to try.
Fabulous. But today you're going to demo in the Dino Glow.
Yeah, I'm just going to pin this block to the bottom of here.
Oh, behave.
Because it's lovely. Because it's lovely and everybody needs to see it.
What's she like? She's clucking around me. She's rubbing her little hands.
Look at this.
Come on then, get it out of your bag. Show me what you've done.
Let me see.
Oh, Debbie Holland says, morning ladies, beautiful quilt, Jane. I need to get cracking with some projects. See.
Yes.
How it is.
It's what we do, don't we? We buy all this lovely fabric and then we're going to make it one day.
Yes. Oh, Patricia says, morning Natasha and evening. She's not here. She's not here today.
Not
so
yet.
Natasha
She'll
is
be
not
in
doing
later.
today. We're having a Magic Monday with our Stitchy Witch. And then Natasha's doing tomorrow's show and Wednesday's show this
Lovely. Week. Right. I forgot to bring the fabric marker in. Is there one in that
We're
that
about to find out.
caddy?
Jane.
Yes, I can see one. Is that one? Excuse me, leaning over you. That one. So your background squares, you're going to make half square triangles first. We're going to concentrate on this part because this is the most tricky. I don't want to use the word tricky because it's not tricky. It's quite straightforward. It's not difficult. It's all half square triangles. We've just got a little bit of fabric manipulation to create that curve. So you need to mark your diagonal on your square, background fabric square, from corner to corner. Now when I'm marking, I always start in the middle and work my way outwards just so that I don't stretch my fabric unnecessarily. It hasn't shown up. Let's use the fabric marker. It's not working.
Very helpful, isn't it?
I can see the line.
Well,
Nobody else can.
Find it.
No, probably not. Let's just give it a.
If I give her a holler.
I can see the line, so I know what I'm working on. But it goes from corner to corner.
It does.
We're going to sew 1/4 inch either side of that line. So we're going to put our accent fabric, which is this one here, together, right sides together with that background square, and we're going to sew 1/4 inch either side of the marked line. We're making half square triangles. We've made half square triangles many times before.
Many times before. And that's the brilliant thing, Jane, is that it's, you know, a foundation thing, isn't it? You know, you learn these different techniques and they come back up time and time again.
Yes.
Doesn't need to be complicated, does
No, it doesn't. And, you know, sometimes the simpler ones that go together quickly are the ones that you'll return to again and again because they're quick to do and you know that you get a consistent effect. And you know, you're familiar with the pattern and you can almost make it with your eyes closed after several times of doing it. So, you know,
just please don't try that because, you know,
not with rotary cutters and things. So we've sewn 1/4 inch either side and we're going to cut along that marked line now to create 2 half square triangles.
Yeah.
Time for a new blade in this one. I changed my one in the workroom. There we go. Now, I would normally say to you, press the half square triangle towards the pattern side or the darker fabric just so that the seam sits underneath that seam. But what I'm going to say to you is, on this one, I would press one seam to your pattern and one seam to your plain. And this will make, when you're joining these pieces here, these units together, you'll be able to nestle the seam here. So you'll get a nice consistent meeting of your points. So it'll help you sort of lock in those seams, which is always nice. It's a nice little way of making sure that your points meet nicely.
Okay, Jane, do you want it?
Yes, thank you. So I'm going to press one so that the seam sits under the pattern fabric, and then the other one so that the seam sits under the plain. Now, I don't know if you just noticed that, but I got the fabric that I wanted the seam to sit under facing at the top. So that way I know it's always going to sit underneath the seam that I want it to fall under. And as I say, when we put these together, because they'll go together like this, you'll have one facing up, one facing down, and you can almost lock those seams in together. So when you sew that down there, it's going to give you a nice meeting of the points and they'll look lovely. So you've got 2 half square triangles, which ultimately look the same. Now what you're going to have to think about with these is you want the 2 half square triangles to come together to create that sort of flying geese shape. You have to keep that in mind when you then come to put your next piece on. So it might be an idea to do all your half square triangles and then keep them in separate piles. So you've got the seam, one seam going from top left to bottom right and the other seam going from top right to bottom left, just so that you've got a pile, equal pile of 2, and that will help you make sure that you don't put them on the wrong way, because it is easy to put them on the wrong way round.
Ask you how you know.
Yeah, I think I might have done it a few times. Now,
All right, Jane.
the square that then creates the curve, we're going to just take that square and we're going to fold it in half along the diagonal to create a triangle. And we are literally just finger pressing that. You can take it to the iron and just give it a bump with the iron just to flatten it, but you don't want a crisp crease. You want to have that little bit of lightness of your fold, just because that helps to create the shape when you're coming to do it. So you don't really want to flatten it completely. So finger pressing is really all you need to do with them. You're then going to take these triangles and you're going to place them over the top of your half square triangle, so that the folded edge goes in the opposite diagonal to the seam. And this is why I say it's probably a good idea to keep your triangles in the orientation that they need to be, because it helps you work out and check that you've still got that sort of little square shape in the middle there when you put the two together.
Lovely.
So if you've got a machine where you can lengthen your stitch, I suggest that you lengthen your stitch and you're just going to basically you're tacking it down. So there's these raw edges here and here. You're just going to sew within the seam allowance, so about 1/8 of an inch in from the side. We can take this stitch length up a little bit. I haven't checked that this will work on this machine. I don't see why it wouldn't.
It's nothing like finding out live on air, Jane.
Yeah.
On a Monday.
Just take it through and just pivot and sew down the other side. This is just to hold your fabric in place, and so that's why it's just, if you can see, it's sort of within the seam allowance there. And you'll do that on all of your half square triangles with the folded triangle on top. And it just holds it in place while we then go to the next stage. And you don't have to worry about whether it's straight or, you know, whether it is exactly 1/4 of an inch, as long as it's just within your seam allowance and it's just holding the layers in place, ready for the next stage. So you've got little pockets in effect like that. Now at this point, if you really don't fancy having a go at doing the curved piecing, there's nothing to stop you just leaving it like that. Now if you were having it long arm quilted, your long arm quilter wouldn't want it like this, and they'd ask you to tack this bit down, because with the machine it would catch that and pull it back anyway. But you could always just sew it along. If you don't like that curved effect, you could just sew it down like that. That's fine. But what we're going to do is we're going to make the curve.
Yeah, and don't make that decision because you think the curve is hard.
Because it's not.
No. Did you want a mat?
Yes. The mat helps actually with this, because it gives you room to sort of position your pieces and have a look at them. So you're going to pin your place a pin in the unit just about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. This is because of your seam allowance. You don't want to lose the curve into your seam allowance. So you can measure this if you want to and mark it and then place the pin in. You need to have the pins in because they hold the fabric down. And you're going to then just pull this curve back gently. And it is a very gentle curve, and there's only so much you can do because you want to make sure that your square underneath is staying flat. If I pulled that right back and made a deep curve, you can see what happens to the unit. It just pulls up and it's not going to lie flat. So it's a very gentle curve. And of course the pin then will keep that part there flat, so that's your seam allowance. So you won't, if I didn't pin it and I pulled it right back like that, I'd lose the edges of my curve in my seam allowance, so it wouldn't look as effective. So this is why you just place your pin.
Lose your point, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Nobody likes losing their point.
No.
No.
We lose the point all the time.
All the
However,
time.
preferably not in our sewing. Claire Angelina's watching us. She says, good morning from Sewing Club. Well, hello, Claire Angelina and all of Sewing Club. We hope you're having a lovely time.
Ooh, making something lovely.
Oh, hopefully.
Yeah. And so you do exactly the same with the other one. So we're going to pop 2 pins in, 1/4 inch in from the edge.
These chunky mats are nice to work with because you can pin your block down as well if you want to.
You know, if that's, you know, you might feel you've not got enough hands to hold that and hold this and everything else. So you could pin your block in place there and there into that plaid, and then that gives you the opportunity just to fold that back, and this isn't going to move then, so you'll know that it's lying nice and flat as you pull that edge back, and then you can pop a pin in it. Now I would recommend that you then change your thread to match this triangle. I'm going to use a grey so you can see where the line goes, but you're literally sewing as close to the folded edge as you can, as you feel comfortable doing. You can do this by hand. Now if you can see, I'm using the crank wheel at the side just to lower my needle so that I know that I'm in the right place. And then I'm just going to gently move. Make sure you take your machine back to the small short stitch.
Don't want your long stitch.
Don't want your long stitch. And then, whoops, gone off a little bit there. This is where the beauty of using this thread shows you all my mistakes. I would go back and unpick that and start again. And it's just a case of just gently moving the fabric in the curve, keeping it in the same position as you want it to go in that curve. You might want to stitch on the spot and then cut your thread, and then this thread at the top, you'll have this top thread here.
You're in close up.
Oh sorry, let's keep it close up.
Yeah.
You'll have this thread that you started with here on the top, so just take it to the back and just pull the loop and pull that thread to the back. You might want to thread that into the stitching that you've already made, but it won't come undone and it's going to be hidden behind in your quilting anyway. So that's how you don't stitch it. Let's try and see if we can do it better on this one.
Do as I say, not as I do, says Jane.
You get a lovely effect, and if you feel confident, you could use one of your fancy stitches on your embroidery, you know, on your embroidery to make a pattern of the curve. It's entirely up to you. And as I say, you can
do like
if you
edge stitch, couldn't you, and then go back in and do some embroidery in the middle of that curve where it's widest. That'd be nice.
And as I say, you can always do it by hand as well, because that's quite nice. It gives a nice effect.
And also, you know, it's a nice mindful
absolutely.
That you take with you. You take it on holiday or whatever and do these. Have all the blocks pre-prepared and then sit and hand stitch those curves down. That'd be nice,
that would be lovely, wouldn't it? So just pull that thread. There's usually a loop and it's usually taking it through, and that just makes that tidy. But you can see I've gone, you know, I've gone off again there, but quite close to that curved edge, just to hold that down, and that gives that. You've still got that little bit of definition there, and that's one of the reasons why we don't press it, just to give that little bit of relief on the cushion, on the corners.
Have you finished with the felt pad?
Yes, thank you.
So we've got these available today on the website. They're also useful actually, and we had hoped to have these in time and they didn't arrive in time, for Jane's ribbon weave quilt.
Oh yes.
That tells you how long ago we ordered these. Getting these can be a right pain.
Yes.
But the ribbon weave quilt block of the calendar quilt, which was the February block, we did in December.
Yes.
For weaving those pieces.
Yeah, because it's great to pin
the
strips down.
Because it's actually a really nice chunky monkey look. You've got room to
yes,
pin things
your pin
in.
will sit into it.
But yeah, if you've got a project that you need to just get everything laying flat and to be able to work with, so that weaving technique for sure.
Perfect.
Or anything like this, these are a really useful thing to have. Once you've got it, you've got it.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
add to your kit.
So we're now going to sew those 2 units together so that the curved pieces are going out towards the edge and these pieces here join together to make a little square. And as I said, because we've pressed those seams in opposite directions, those lock together nicely.
They do.
and we can just, standard 1/4 inch seam, just sew that down.
Just to clarify, this is not a difficult thing to do.
No.
I did not have all the helpful little hints and tips. I had the skeleton instructions, didn't I, Jane?
You did.
When I create my sample, I'm typing up the instructions, aren't I?
Yes, so Gemma just gets it in Word format.
I just get
So she gets no images, nothing like that. She just has to understand my gobbledygook and make it work. And she does a valiant job.
And so, you know, bearing that in mind, I can verify that this is not a tricky thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's really fun, actually.
So for each block, you're going to need to make 4 units like that, which, you know, is, do it in step by step. And as I always say, make 1 block first, get an idea of how it goes together, and then you can start chain piecing your pieces. You know,
Lovely.
For the rest of the 8 blocks, you know what you're doing. You can do all your half square triangles and you can do all your curves, and then you've got all of those units together in no time. So on 2 of the units, you're going to add a corner square of your background fabric to each side.
Lovely.
So it's such a quick block. Once you've got those curved pieces done, the block goes together really quickly. I think the curved piecing is what's going to take you your time, but once you get used to the process, you'll be doing those quite quickly as well. They won't take you a long time to do. And I think don't worry too much about the curves being consistent. If one's a little bit wider and one's a little bit narrower, the overall effect will look stunning.
You had told me that before I went to do it, Jane. So I just did it, threw them together, and went, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
Tried not to pay too much attention.
Yeah, don't worry too much about it, because, I mean, you can see on this one, that curve there just leaves a little bit, it's a little bit short, so it's leaving a gap there, but the overall effect of the curve is still there. So
once it's in the quilt,
once it's in, you know, you've got that. So you will have 2 rows
Jimmy
like
says
that.
The curves sound easy to do for Jimmy. So
yes,
is good.
I'm going to say if Jimmy thinks they're going to be straightforward, that's not a problem.
That's fantastic.
So you'll make 2 rows like that, and that second row is turned around, and then on your main square, your feature fabric, you're going to put 2 of your curved units either side of the square, making sure that the curved fabric, the bumbleberries, is facing the square. It's very easy to get the wrong one.
And then you get that wonderful star.
It makes a lovely, makes a different block completely, which you might want to try and see what happens, but for this pattern, that's what we're doing.
Auntie Lisa says on its own it's a crown.
Yes.
It does look a bit like a crown.
It does a little bit.
Fabulous. I have put today's collection up for everybody, so if you are looking for the products, you will find them. I haven't pressed the pin button though, there we go. I've pinned that now, so it'll be at the top of the page. I'm pressing all the buttons today.
I was going to say you're having to do everything all in one go.
No, Natasha.
Present everything. So you're going to press your seam so it faces towards your centre square. On this one, you're going to press it so that the seams face the corner squares. And again, this will help when you come to put the rows together. I'll just pop that one onto the other side.
Lovely. Something we have done this morning as well, which I know it gets asked for every now and again, and we don't always get the opportunity to, but today's sample, Jane's sample quilt, has been put up, available to purchase. Controversially. I haven't got a final yes from Natasha, however, she's not here, so. And it's beautiful. You know, if Mini PT was still Mini PT, those were the colours that she absolutely adored at one point, Jane. So I would have been whipping that up for her.
She'd have had that, no problem.
And she used to watch a programme about mermaids called H2O Just Add Water.
Oh.
And she was obsessed. Absolutely obsessed. I think it's quite common. Quite common that you get young girls and, you know, well, boys as well. But
mermaids.
Obsessed with mermaids and sea. Life in the sea.
Sea creatures,
Sea creatures and life in the sea.
So, you've got your 3 rows like so. As we say, this row is the same. as the top row, but you're just turning that round 180 degrees, 90 degrees, is it 90 or 180? I don't know.
180.
180,
yeah.
And that makes your star. So it's a case of joining the rows together. So as I said, if you press your middle row with the fabric towards the main fabric, and on this one the fabric's towards the corners, you can nestle those seams and pop a pin in just along that seam just to hold it in place while you then take it to the machine to sew it, because you've got a little bit of extra fabric in these seams because of the fabric you've put on the top, so they do have a tendency to just move slightly if you don't pin them in place. They want to go their own way because there's just that little bit of extra thickness. So it might be an idea, you know, to get your iron on its hottest setting, and maybe even just a little bit of steam. I don't tend to use steam when I'm doing my patchwork because I worry about it stretching the fabric. But for this case, because you want the seams to behave and go the way you want them to, it might be worth just popping a bit of steam in just to get that nice crisp seam and get it nice and flat. So we get the top seam in.
Lovely in this colourway.
It is beautiful, isn't it?
Cute.
And then we'll add the bottom row on, and again we'll just nestle those seams and pop a pin in along that seam line just to make sure that they're in the right place.
Similarly though, I can really imagine grabbing some of the half-metre heavens that I've been you know, piling up, stockpiling for a while now, and grabbing some of those feature capes. I've got the Philip Jacobs, things like that, because you've got a really nice size block in the middle there.
It's a nice, it's a nice size quilt as well. It makes a nice, you know, little snuggle quilt for a child, or equally, you know, a little quilt to go over your knee in the evening when it gets a little bit chilly, or over your shoulders. People that, you know, need to use a wheelchair, it's just a nice little quilt that'll sit over their knees, keep the chill off.
But also it's a nice size for a wall hanging as well, Jane.
Absolutely.
You know, this size is lovely to display on a wall.
You could just really showcase your favourite fabrics, couldn't you, really?
Absolutely.
So that's your block, and again I would press it so that the seams here go towards your feature fabric. Now this is where I say about the fabrics not wanting to play because of the extra in your seam. So these corners here, they don't want to go that way, but if you use a nice hot iron with
Jane, aren't you?
A little blast of steam on them, and maybe if you treat your fabric with a bit more flatter after you've made it as well, that will just get those seams going the way that you want them to.
Do as you're told, you say. Do as you're told.
So we can just press that.
Okay.
That's it. Just making sure that it sits.
Okay.
That's it, lovely.
Has this one got to come up?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going.
It doesn't always want to do it.
No, it doesn't.
And when you come to put your sashing on, you can just make sure that your seams are facing the right way, because that always helps. Now then, I've got my sashing strips somewhere under here, she says. I thought I'd got them pinned together. I've got all this going on under here and I've got nothing.
All your prep.
All my prep.
All the things. You know, we have this rule in this building, don't we? If we can't find it, it's generally underneath the demo desk.
Yes.
If in doubt, go and look underneath the demo desk.
So your block is 12.5 inches before sewn together. So you want sashing strips that are that length. Seem to have misplaced one.
No, Petra, we absolutely cannot go an entire show without saying the word lovely. I'm afraid it is impossible.
No.
Because as you say, it is such an appropriate word for so much. So, no, I think that's absolutely impossible. We'd have to be sponsored to do that, Jane, and I think we'd fail dismally.
I think we would. Because we do like the word lovely. Lovely.
It is very, very much the word.
You're a fan of My Fair Lady, you'll use the word lovely lots.
Yes. Yes, or we look in the wardrobe, yes. That's normally when we're looking for Natasha's cup of tea, Auntie Lizzie, you're quite right. That was funny.
That was funny.
We'd had the
and the way that you
building apart.
Yeah, and the way that you just went, where was she last?
I know exactly what she's done. Everyone's like, what do you mean you know exactly what she's done? I said, I just know. Just know.
It's handy having a ruler that is exactly 12.5 inches.
Nice.
There we go.
Which one's that, Jane? The CGR 12. Well, that's a clever idea.
Nice.
They've got a 12.
And if you are the sort of person that likes to square your block up, this is a lovely size. It's a 12.5 inch square, so you can trim off any extra that you may have if your seams aren't.
We don't have those at the moment. They're doing 8.5 inch one as well, and I can't get either of them. So we will at some point try. See if we can again speak to Creative Grids and see. But the 8.5 inch block one I really, really, really want. They've not had it in stock for ages.
Oh, right. So on 3 of your blocks, you're going to attach a sashing strip to both sides. And then on the remainder of your blocks, you're just going to put the sashing strip on the right-hand side. And you make 3 rows of blocks. So you'll start with your block with the 2. It's not going to move around. There we are. You'll start with your block with the 2 strips.
Yep.
You'll add on that block and then your 3rd block with a strip on the right hand side. And you'll make 3 rows like that. So you do 3 blocks with 2 strips, sashing strips on either side. And then the rest of your blocks with it just on the right hand side.
Nice.
So when you come to join those together, they'll form your row. And then you've got your sashing strip, and you're going to have little squares of your accent fabric. She says, got them pinned here. And you're going to need to sew 2 squares to 1 piece on each end of your strip. Like so, and then again the rest you'll just have 1 square sewn on, and you'll sew those again. You'll start with a row, make them into rows. You'll start with 1 strip with the 2 pieces on, and then you'll sew 2 of those subsequently, and that means that you'll have a little square starting the row and a little square at the end of the row with the squares in between. So it looks something like this.
Yes, here's one you made earlier.
There
we go.
So it looks like that.
Lovely.
And so that will then, you'll sew one of these strips to the bottom of each of your rows, then join your rows together, and you'll have one of these strips left over, which you then attach to the top. And that's your quilt top. It's such a lovely...
That's a lovely sash, it gives it a real nice little pop,
it just
doesn't it?
makes that little extra bit that adds a little bit more to the quilt, and actually makes the block look like it's floating within the quilt.
Yeah, absolutely, which we can see behind us. It's behind you.
So you can see it's quite a simple construction. It doesn't take long to put together. I mean, I know I've done a lot of prep beforehand, but it doesn't. The blocks come together quite quickly. And, the thing that if you're not familiar with it, the thing that you may find challenging to start with is just making that curve. And you could see it wasn't difficult to do. It's just take your time, make sure you pin that 1/4 inch in your seam allowance so that you don't make your curve go right to the edge and then you lose the points. And that's how it goes together.
Amazing. That looks beautiful, Jane.
I just quilted within the sashing, so I quilted from the top to the bottom, and I always start when I'm doing between the blocks, I always start at the same top or the bottom, whichever way I start. I carry on all of them, and that way you don't get a distortion of the fabric. So if you went down one way and then back up the other, your fabric would just ripple slightly, even with your walking foot on.
And yet naturally that would be the thing that you might do, is
you would
just
think,
switch it round and keep
because
going.
that's sort of like
you're at the end,
intuitive, isn't it? Just turn it round and go back. So I always start, and I start in the middle first and then do the outside edges. That way if I have got a little bit of a ripple in there, I can always smooth it out towards the edge and then go again from the same side across the middle. Just done that to stabilise the blocks. Then I echo quilted just in, not quite in the ditch, just round the edge of the star shape, following that shape round. And then I just echo quilted and gone in. It's literally the width of my walking foot in from the edge of the square there around that middle bit. So not complicated quilting, just straight quilting, and that just sort of lets the block itself sing.
It's lovely. It's really lovely. And it doesn't need any more quilting than that, Jane.
No.
It looks great.
And that's a nice size for your domestic machine. That's a nice size quilt to get under there. It's not too difficult to quilt. So
perfect. It's
a lovely project for somebody that's starting out and just wants to try and push themselves a little bit further with their patchwork.
Oh, I'd really love to see what everyone does with this
pattern. Yeah, it's really lovely.
And we've got it available already as a digital, so you will find the digital pattern on the website as well as the printed version.
Lovely.
Other things you will find on the website also. SJ was a busy girl last week and she got some fantastic Friday deals up. So if you've missed those, then I've put some of them in today's collection. Scroll down, have a look. There were some Lewis and Irene bolt ends from the Majolica collection. I know some of them have already flown out. So if you love a bolt end with a nice discount on it, then have a little sneaky peek over there and you should find some of those floating around. There may be some more being added as well in the next 48 hours. So again, keep your eye on the fabric clearance page because that is where you find those mega deals.
Lovely.
It's been beautiful again, Jane.
It's lovely, isn't it?
Beautiful.
Do you want to see what I'm going to do next week?
I was going to say exactly the same. However,
now I'm going to be here on
sorry, darling.
Wednesday, aren't I, next week?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, double check. Auntie Lizzie says, I love cornerstones, they're lovely. I like the secondary pattern too, the squares with the dots and the ovals.
Yes.
Which is right.
Yeah,
they
this
look really nice.
This pattern here going on, that's quite a nice effect, isn't it? That you don't necessarily notice straight away.
No, exactly. And Cynthia from Ohio says, greetings. I made a baby quilt that looked like a school of fish, square on point, and the tail used a similar technique using a half square triangle bit that was swished back and top stitched.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's so many ways you can. Once you see that pattern, you know, you're going to think, oh, I could do this with that, and I could turn it the other way around and see what happens to the block. You know, it gives you lovely effects.
Yes. So that's this week's make from our Stitchy Witch. But next week's make, you can say it now, Jane. Natasha's been waving a little bit of Kaufman around, hasn't she?
Yes.
We've got beautiful new Kaufman, the new Aurelia collection landed last week. Jane's been rather busy doing something fabulous with it, a Lisa Chandler pattern, and Natasha's been busy as well, so you'll get to have a sneaky peek at some of it this week. I think it's Wednesday that Natasha will be showing some of the Aurelia, but the bulk of it will be going live on Jane's show next week in said beautiful quilt.
This is a Lisa Chandler pattern, which is just lovely, but it shows off these beautiful bold prints with that lovely hint of metallic. There's chrysanthemums and dragonflies in the main print, and then there's chrysanthemums and sort of blossoms and dragonflies in this print. It's just a beautiful fabric. It's Kaufman fabric, so it's just wonderful to work with.
You can't beat it, can you? It's just absolutely gorgeous.
And this pattern of Lisa just lends itself beautifully because it means that you can feature the main print really nicely.
Lisa used to work as well for them, didn't she?
Yes.
And her metallic, they have the same beauty to them, don't they? They are very much...
There's a depth to them.
If you find a pattern that will complement Lisa's fabrics, generally they're a really good match.
Yes.
Really good match for these as well. So that will be on next week in more than one colourway.
Yes.
Not just the one, Mrs. Wembley.
I'm excited to make up the sample for the other colourway because there's some gorgeous colours in the other one as well.
Oh, Julia says, RK make amazing fabrics. They do.
They do. They're
absolutely
gorgeous.
Beautiful. Really,
and
really
it's
gorgeous.
A really nice base, like Lisa's. It's a lovely base cloth, so it cuts up nicely, and it's really nice to work with.
And that's the thing, isn't it? When you've got that stability to your fabric,
absolutely.
The result that you get from it is just beautiful. Really, really beautiful. Yes, Natasha will be back. She will be here. She's on her way from Cornwall this afternoon.
Yes.
And then she will be with you tomorrow and Wednesday. She has got some fabulous makes for you. Tomorrow, I think some of you may have seen a little sneaky peek. Some little bunnies.
Gorgeous.
She's going to have fun with frames tomorrow. So she's got some purse frame makes. and all sorts of other goodies for you as well. You know what she's like. She'll go full Tash, and there'll be all the things in all the world on her show. And then Wednesday, a very special make, and I know she's been sharing photos on Facebook of her design process with this make that uses some of the fabric in a different colourway with the chrysanthemums on that you've seen on that quilt there. Yes. And then next week you'll be in your Wednesday slot, Jane.
Yes. Stitchy Witchy Wednesday.
Because Natasha's at that there Create and Craft this weekend.
Yes.
So she'll be on Monday.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'll be next to catch Jane on Wednesday. Whew.
Yes. Busy week.
It's been full on, hasn't it?
Yeah. Lovely.
It's been amazing.
Lovely.
Thank you for joining us. It's always lovely to have your company. And I think we've answered everyone's questions. I believe. Oh, Julia says, Soz Babes, to what? Oh. Auntie Lizzie says, lovely! Can't help it, can we?
No. It's lovely.
Can't be helped. Well done for spotting it, Petra, but we do say it a lot.
And now you've noticed we say it.
We're going to say it
even more.
Can't help it.
That and beautiful.
And yeah, Soz Babes. Although we're Soz Babes free this week, aren't we, for the early part? Because young Izzy Wiz is off on her travels again. Yeah. She's all over the shop at the moment.
She's gone to see the windmills.
She has.
And the tulips in Amsterdam.
She has. She's having a bit of an adventure. We love this. So to be young and adventurous. Jane. On that note, Jane and I shall go and make a brew.
Sit down with a cup of tea.
5 minutes of going, thinking about our misspent youth. And we'll see you, or I will, tomorrow with Natasha at 10 a.m. Thank you for joining us. She says, just as my system crashes. Oh, I tell you, it's going to be one of those days. Thank you so much. Take care. Lots of love.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.